The 24th of May, 1900, Volume 3, The Will of Louisa is one with that of Jesus. I was very afflicted because of the privation of my adorable Jesus. At the most, he comes like shadow and flashes. I really feel I cannot go on any more if he wants to continue further. So, as I was at the summit of my affliction, he made himself seen for a little while, all tired, as if he needed a refreshment, and throwing his arms around my neck, he told me, "My beloved, bring me some flowers and surround me completely, for I feel I am languishing with love. My daughter, the fragrant perfume of your flowers will be refreshment for me and will remedy my troubles, for I am languishing and fainting." Immediately I added, "And you, my beloved Jesus, give me some fruits, because idleness and scarce suffering increase my languishing so much that I faint, to the point of feeling I am dying. So I will be able to give you not only flowers, but also fruits to relieve your languishing more." And Jesus resumed his speaking, saying to me, "Oh, how well we combine together, don't we? It seems that your will is one with mine." For a moment it seemed I was relieved, as if the state in which I was wanted to cease. But after a little while, I found myself immersed in the same lethargy as before, without my highest good, abandoned and alone. End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1910, Volume 9. One who lives up high in the divine will is not subject to mutations. As I was in my usual state, I felt I was really a useless being. I was unable to think of either sins or coldness or fervour. I looked at all things in the same way. I feel indifferent to everything. I occupy myself with nothing but the holy will of God, but without anxiety, rather in the most perfect calm. So I was saying to myself, what a bad state mine is. Had I at least the thought of my sins, yet it seems I am happy with them. Oh, holy God, what disgrace is mine. While I was saying this, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, those who live down below, breathing the air that everyone breathes, are forced to feel the various mutations of weather, that is, cold, heat, rain, hail, winds, nighttime, daytime. But one who lives up high, where the air ends, is not subject to feeling these mutations of weather, because there is nothing but perfect daytime. And not feeling these mutations, naturally she has no concerns at all. The same happens to one who lives up high and from the divine air alone. Since my being is not subject to mutations, but it is always the same, always peaceful and in full contentment, what is the wonder if one who lives in me, from my will and from my own air, has no concerns about anything? So would you rather live down below like the majority does, that is, outside of me, from human air, from passions?" End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1911, Volume 10. What God is by nature, the soul is by grace. I was thinking of the incomprehensible greatness and wisdom of God, who in giving his goods to us does not decrease in anything. On the contrary, it seems that by giving he acquires the glory that the creature gives him for having received the goods of the Lord. And blessed Jesus, in coming, told me, "My daughter, you too possess this quality, not in the body, but in the soul, which was communicated to you by my goodness. In fact, by trying to infuse good, virtue, love, patience, sweetness in souls, you lose nothing at all. On the contrary, by infusing them in others. If you see that they take advantage of them, you enjoy a greater satisfaction. So that which you are by grace in your soul, I am by nature, and not only for the goods of virtues, but for all possible goods, natural, spiritual, and of any kind. End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1919, Volume 12. The soul in whom Jesus dwells feels what the world sends to him: hardness, darkness, sins, etc. I was feeling very oppressed and afflicted because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and I was telling him with all my heart, "Come, my love, without you I feel I am dying, but not to die once, rather die continuously. Come, I cannot take any more. I cannot take any more." My sweet Jesus moved in my interior, and I felt him kissing my heart intensely. Then, unveiling himself, he told me, "My daughter, I feel an irresistible need to pour myself out with you in love." And I immediately, "Jesus, how much you make me suffer. The privation of you kills me. All other pains would be nothing, or other smiles and kisses of yours, but your privation is death without pity. Ah, Jesus, Jesus, how you have changed." And he, interrupting me, told me, "Daughter of my love, you do not want to convince yourself that I look at the world through you. And since I dwell in you, you are forced to feel what the world sends me: hardness, darkness, sins, fury of my justice, and so forth. Therefore, instead of thinking of my privation, you must think of defending me from the evils that creatures send me, and of breaking the fury of my justice. So I will remain sheltered within you, and creatures will be struck less." End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1920, Volume 12. The acts done in the divine will be the defenders of the divine throne, not only in the present time, but until the end of centuries. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, the acts done in my will dissolve the human acts, and identifying themselves with my divine acts, they rise up to heaven, circulate in everyone, embrace all centuries, all points, and all creatures. And since they remain fixed in my will, these acts are and will be the defenders of my throne for each offence which creatures give to me, not only in the present time, but until the end of the centuries. Rising to defend me, they will make reparations counter to the offences that creatures will make. The acts done in my will have the virtue of multiplying themselves according to the need and the circumstances which my glory requires. What will the happiness of the soul be when she finds herself up there in heaven and sees her acts done in my will as defenders of my throne, and which, having a continuous echo of reparation, will reject the echo of the offences that come from the earth? Therefore, the glory in heaven of the soul who lives in my will on earth will be different from that of the other blessed. The others will draw all their contentments from me, while these souls will not only draw them from me, but will also have their own little rivers within my sea. As they lived in my volition on earth, they formed them by themselves within my sea. It is just that in heaven too they will have this little river of happiness and contentments, which will extend over all the blessed. How beautiful are these rivers within my sea. They pour into me and I into them. It will be an enchanting sight at which all the blessed will remain astonished. End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1924, Volume 16. The doctrine of the divine will is most pure, most clear and refulgent, and to doubt about it is the most absurd thing. The first word which God pronounced in creation was fiat. It encloses everything, and with it God gave the first lesson on his will, divine image and likeness within us. I felt embittered to the highest degree because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and with the sad doubt that everything that Jesus has told me and has worked in my soul may be nothing other than my illusion, a trick of the infernal enemy. I said to myself, if I were allowed, and if all the writings were in my hands and in my power, oh, how gladly I would burn them all up. But alas, they are no longer in my power. They are in someone else's hands. And if I wanted, I would not be allowed. Ah, Jesus, save at least my poor soul. Do not let me perish. And since everything is over, the relations between me and you, do not permit that I have the greatest misfortune of not doing even slightly your most holy and adorable will. And now, while I was thinking of this, my adorable Jesus moved in my interior. Before his adorable presence, the darkness fled, the doubts disappeared, and light and peace came back to me. And my sweet Jesus told me, daughter of my will, why do you doubt my work in you? And then, to doubt about my will and about what I have told you on my supreme volition is the most absurd thing that can be. The doctrine of my will is more than crystal clear water taken at limpid fount of my divinity. It is more than a refulgent sun which illuminates and warms. It is a most clear mirror, and whoever will have the great good of reflecting himself in this celestial and divine doctrine will be shaken and will feel within himself all the goodwill to be purified of his stains, to be able to drink in large gulps from this celestial doctrine, and so remain embellished by its divine adornments. You must know the cause, the reason why the divine wisdom and omnipotence wanted to pronounce the fiat in creation. It could have created all things without saying a word, but since it wanted his will to breathe over all things, and these things to receive the virtue and the goods it contains, it pronounced the fiat, and as it pronounced it, it communicated the prodigies of its will, so that all things might have my will as life, rule, example, and teacher. My daughter, since the first word of your God which resounded in the vault of the heavens was fiat, nor did he say anything else, this meant that everything was in the fiat. With the fiat, he created everything, constituted everything, ordered everything, enclosed everything, bound all his goods for the good of all those who would not go out of his eternal fiat. And when, after creating everything, I wanted to create man, I did nothing but repeat the fiat, as though needing him with my own will. And then I added, let us make man in our image and likeness. By virtue of our will, he will maintain our likeness whole within himself and will preserve our image, beautiful and intact. See then how the uncreated wisdom wanted to pronounce it, as if it were unable to say anything else but fiat. So much was this lesson so sublime, necessary for all. And this fiat is still in the air upon the whole creation as preserver of my own works, and as though in act of descending upon earth to invest man and enclose him once again within itself, so that he may return there where he came from. That is, having come from my will, he may return to my will. In fact, it is my will that all things created by me return to the same path from which they came, so that they may come back to me, beautiful, decorous, and as though carried triumphantly by my own will. So, of all I have told you about my will, this has been my purpose, that my will be known and come to reign upon earth. And what I have said will be. I will overwhelm everything in order to obtain this, but everything must return to me within that word, fiat. God said fiat, and fiat must man say. In all his things he will have nothing but the echo of my fiat, the mark of my fiat, the works of my fiat, in order to give the goods which my will contains. In this way, I will obtain the complete fulfillment of all creation. This is why I began the work of making known the effects, the value, the goods, the sublime things which my will contains, and how the soul, following the same road as my fiat, will remain so sublimated, divinized, sanctified, enriched, as to astonish heaven and earth at the sight of the portent of my fiat operating in the creature. Because by virtue of my will, I will unleash new graces never given before, more effulgent light and unheard of portents never seen before. I act like a teacher when he teaches the sciences he knows to his disciple. If he teaches to his disciple, it is because he wants to make of him another teacher like himself. So I do. If my sublime lesson was my first word, fiat, the prayer I taught was the fiat on earth as it is in heaven. Now, the fact that I moved on to give you more diffuse, more clear, more sublime lessons about my will is because I want the disciple not only to acquire its science, but becoming a master to teach it to others. And not only this, but to acquire all my properties and my goods, my joys, and my own happiness. Therefore, be attentive and faithful to my teachings and never move from my will. End of the reading. The 24th of May, 1927, Volume 21. Offering of one's work in the divine will. One who lives in it forms many acts of divine lives and possesses the bilocating virtue. I was doing the offering of my work, saying, Jesus, my love, I want your hands in mine in order to give to our celestial Father that love and that glory which you individually gave him with your works while being on earth. Not only this, but I want to unite myself with you when you, word of the Father, even from eternity, offered together with him with his very works, loving with reciprocal love and with perfect equality. And I want to glorify you with that same glory with which you glorified yourselves among the three divine persons. But I am not yet content. I want to place my hands in yours in order to flow together with your hands in your own will within the sun, to give you the glory of the light, of the heat, of the fecundity of the sun, in the sea to give you the glory of its waves, of its continuous murmuring, in the air to give you the glory of the singing of the birds, in the azure heavens to give you the glory of their immensity, and in the twinkling of the stars, in their flickering, I make my voice flow, saying to you, I love you. I want to flow in the flowery fields to give you the glory and the adoration of their fragrances. There is not one point in which I do not want to be present, so that everywhere you may feel your little daughter adoring you, loving you, and glorifying you. Then, while I was saying this and other things, My sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, I feel in you my glory, my love, my life, my works. My will centralizes everything in you. Not only this, but while you work, my will takes you into the sun, and you work together with its light. So your movements flow in the solar rays, and as the sun diffuses, you diffuse glory and love for your Creator. How beautiful is my daughter, finding her in all my works, working to give me the love, the glory that each one of my works contains. Since my will possesses the bilocating virtue, it also bilocates you so as to be able to find you in the sea, in the air, in the stars, everywhere to love you and to be loved and glorified. After this, I was feeling as though absorbed in the supreme fiat, and I was thinking to myself about the great goods that the supreme will can do in our souls. And my always lovable Jesus added, my daughter, each act that the divine will does, united with the soul, forms a divine life. In fact, my will being divine, it cannot help forming divine lives in its acts, in such a way that wherever it reigns, as the soul operates, speaks, thinks, palpitates, etc., my divine volition makes its work, its word, its thought and heartbeat flow within that of the creature, first forming in her its act, its word, and then giving the birth of its divine life. So in everything the soul does, she releases from herself so many divine lives as to fill heaven and earth with as many images of divine life. She becomes the reproducer, the bilocator of the divine life. My will is not less powerful in the soul in whom it reigns with the fullness of its dominion than it is within the womb of the three divine persons. And therefore, possessing the bilocating virtue, it not only forms in the soul as many divine lives as it wants, but it forms in her its heaven, its sun, seas of love, flowery fields, and makes the soul say to her God, heaven you gave me, and heaven I give you. Sun you gave me, and sun I give you. Seas and flowery fields you gave me, and seas and flowery fields I give you. Your will repeats in me everything you have done for me in creation and redemption, so that I may give you everything just as you gave me everything. O power of my will, what can it not do in the soul in whom it reigns? Therefore, wherever it reigns, it delights in placing the soul at our level. More so, since it knows that that is our will, wanting the creature to be similar to our image. And our will, our faithful executor, renders her such, and we call this creature in whom our supreme fiat reigns, our glory, our love, our life. Only with our will can the soul reach such extent. Without it, there is great distance between creator and creature. This is why I love so much that the divine volition reign in the creature, to give to our will extensive field of action in order to bilocate our works, our life, and to raise the creature to the perfect purpose for which she was created. The creature came out of our volition, and it is justice that she walk in the steps of our will, and that she return to her Creator on that same path from which she came, all beautiful and enriched by the prodigies of our eternal fiat. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.